Salam and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part 3 of the spiritual culture in Islam by the roving ambassador of Islam, Mawlana Abdul Aleem Siddiqui al-Qadiri, and thanks to Sheikh Abdul Hadi al-Qadiri, the president of the Imam Ahmed Rida Academy. Please get copies of this from the Academy itself, from Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, from the Republic of South Africa, a beautiful land on the southern tip of the African continent. Alhamdulillah. Right, so let's continue. We are looking at the spiritual culture or the spiritual dimension or the spiritual philosophy in Islam. So we started the previous episode with Aristotle saying, "Oh man, know thyself," right? So common sense, which is a starting point of all philosophy, is unanimously agreed that a human being is composed of two distinct constituents, the body and the soul. There is such an affinity, such close relationship between the two, that we call this being a person only as long as the soul remains with the body. As soon as that state obtained, when it is realized that it has left the body, when the soul leaves the body, then the term person no longer applies. So the word person only applies when the body and soul are combined together. That is why when a person dies, you no longer refer to that person. You don't longer say that John has died or Jane has died. We just say that is the mayat. The mayat has died, right? Or where is the body? Let's take the mayat, right? Because the soul is gone. Then it's just the sand. That body is now just the sand and soil, right? But you treat it with the utmost respect. The dignity and honor for that body, you treat with the absolute utmost respect, right? So, however, in spite of there being such a correspondence between the two, the body and the soul, no satisfactory explanation regarding the real nature of the soul has been so far placed before the world by representatives of scientific thought. And scientists are really battling with it. They are really having difficulty. And if you see some of the studies or some of the research done by the neurophysicists and neurologists, they are such intelligent people, but you see how they are struggling. They are really struggling. They say, what is this thing called consciousness? What is a thought? What is those things? They are really struggling with it. They don't know what is a soul. They say, how are we thinking? What is this thing called a thinking? Then the simple answer, there's a soul inside you that's doing all the thinking for you. Your consciousness is your soul, but they are really grappling with it because they are denying the soul. So by denying the soul, they are finding great difficulty, right? So the physiologists have left no stone unturned in exploring the body thoroughly from head to toe. They have not only carefully observed the bones, the muscles, the nerves, and the glands, and have subjected even to the tiniest parts to the lancets, to the scalpels, but they have also succeeded in photographing the complete human organism by means of X-ray. And in addition to X-ray, today we also have MRIs, and we also have functional MRIs. Absolutely amazing. So these researchers and investigations have enabled them to establish the presence of life germs in the blood. Accordingly, they have come to the conclusion that what we call life is due to the hormones, the corpuscles, the red blood cells, which carry the oxygen, taking it up from the air into the lungs and passing it on to the body cells. But this discovery, remember, there are more than 30 to 40 trillion cells in the human body, with another 40 to 50 trillion bacteria in the gut. Those are anaerobic bacteria. So when you die, you no longer have oxygen in the body. So now the anaerobic bacteria, they don't need oxygen. So they start multiplying. That's why the belly starts swelling up, the body starts swelling up, because it is this 50 trillion bacteria who are multiplying like crazy until, the whole body starts decomposing, right? But this discovery, however important it might be regarded from a scientific point of view, does not carry us far enough. The mystery of the soul remains unsolved as far as the scientific community is concerned. Closely connected with physiology is the science of psychology. It deals with the mental phenomena and processes, and has therefore a far greater claim than any other science for acting as our guide in solving the problem of the soul. So the closest scientific field or subject that comes to try and understand the soul is the domain of psychology, because psychology has everything to do with the mind. And when the mind is basically what? The mind is the thinking part of the soul, because the soul is doing the thinking. So when that entity that is doing the thinking, the psychologists are studying that entity, they're studying the psychology, they're studying the mental parts of the brain, and they're studying decision making, they're studying thought processes. What does it mean when you're saying you are meditating or pondering or contemplating? So all of that is the soul that's actually working behind the scenes. Alhamdulillah. So closely connected with physiology is the science of psychology. It deals with the mental phenomena and processes and is therefore a far greater claim than any other science for acting as our guide for solving the problem of this enigmatic soul. But here again, we meet with nothing which is conclusive and positive. The earlier exponents of modern philosophy, nay, even the 19th century psychologists, feel satisfied with such vague definitions like this, and I quote, because they don't know what is the soul, so they try and speculate. And speculation has got no room in the case where there's precision, and the Quran gives us precision. But yes, speculation, and we're looking at how other people are struggling, right? And when we see how other people are struggling, what do? We make shukr, make lakh shukr, say, Ya Allah, thank for guiding us to Deen al-Islam. Oh Allah, please do not forsake us, nor abandon us now that they have guided us. So let me quote 19th century psychologist, and I quote, this is Paulson. The soul is a plurality of psychical I'm already lost, right? So look how difficult, look how all co-mingled it is. I like simple definitions, like simple answers, but already you can see there's a cauldron going on in the head. It's all muddled. But let's read what they are saying. The soul is a plurality of psychical experiences comprehended into the unity of consciousness in a manner not further definable. We know nothing whatever of a substance outside of, behind, or under the ideas and feelings. I'll find it difficult to understand what that is. I'll find it, if I have to write an exam on that, I'll fail that exam, right? Right, so let's continue. But the 20th century has witnessed a more aggressive attitude among the psychologists. As a consequence, there have cropped up several schools represented by the existentialist, the behaviorist, the purposivist, and the configurationist, and so on, each one claiming infallibility and finality in the method for its own self. But behind the smokescreen of all the grand terminology, the naked fact stands that in spite of the valuable contribution which they have made to human knowledge in many, many ways, they cannot be regarded to have penetrated the surface view of the workings of behind the surface view of the workings of the soul. Look how they are struggling. Scientists are struggling. And as what is here, as what Mawlana Siddiqui has said, how do we find that answer? So stay tuned, join me in the next session as we're coming closer and closer to the solution as to what is the soul, and we're looking at the spiritual culture of Islam. Right, join me in the next episode, which is episode number 4. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.